Hello, friends. It's hard to believe, but we've finally reached the end of our journey through one of the most dramatic revolutions in history. What began as a struggle against imperial oppression grew into a maelstrom of war, ideology, and dictatorship, reshaping not just Russia, but the entire world. Along the way, we've traveled beside starving peasants and restless soldiers, witnessed the rise of the Bolsheviks, and felt the chill of Stalin's iron grip. But as we near the final stretch of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect on what it all meant. The Russian Revolution wasn't just a domestic conflict. It was a seismic shift in global history. The fall of the Romanov dynasty marked the end of centuries of imperial rule. In its place rose the Soviet Union, a new kind of state, one that championed communism with the promise of a classless utopia. For the oppressed and the working class, the revolution initially symbolized hope, a beacon promising justice and equality. But that hope was fleeting. The revolution soon devoured its own children. The Bolsheviks' utopian ideals gave way to authoritarian rule. Lenin's Red Terror and Stalin's purges turned the dream of freedom into a nightmare. Human rights, dissent, and individual liberties were crushed under the weight of state power. And yet, the impact of the revolution extended far beyond Russia's borders. The Bolsheviks' success inspired leftist movements worldwide. In China, Mao Zedong's revolution was modeled on Leninist principles, while Fidel Castro's Cuban revolution echoed the Bolshevik strategy of seizing power through armed rebellion. The Cold War, which divided the world into two ideological camps, was a direct consequence of the Russian Revolution, with capitalist and communist superpowers locked in a decades-long struggle. But it wasn't just about geopolitical influence. It was about human suffering. Millions of peasants, workers, and intellectuals fought for a better future, only to become victims of the system they helped create. The gulags, mass executions, and famines became grim reminders of how revolutions can spiral into repression. The idealism that fueled the revolution was ultimately buried under the weight of authoritarianism. And yet, despite the tragedy and terror, the revolution's legacy still lingers. The struggle for justice, equality, and human rights that once drove the revolution remains a flame in modern movements. Even today, protests against corruption, calls for economic justice, and fights against oppression carry the faint echo of 1917. The revolution may have ended, but its lessons remain painfully relevant. And with that, our journey through the Russian Revolution comes to an end. We've wandered through palaces and prisons, battlefields and breadlines, witnessing the rise and fall of empires. But the road of history stretches far ahead, filled with new revolutions, forgotten wars, and timeless struggles. So, where should we journey next? Should we sail through the ancient kingdoms of Mesopotamia, dive into the mysteries of lost civilizations? Or perhaps explore another era of revolution and change? Let me know. The world is vast and its stories are endless.